Hello everybody. We're gonna make ourselves another video of our Massey Ferguson Wr9870. We're cutting some haygrazer today, or cane hay, sorghum, sedan grass, whatever you want to call it. Good BMR variety haygrazer that has had the ever-living piss beat out of it. This stuff, we had golf ball sized hail, and this stuff didn't get hit as bad, but it laid a lot of it over, and so it's having a few issues when we start cutting. When we're cutting with the way it laid it, it does really good. When we're having to cut against the way it laid it down, you start having feeding problems. These machines handle it really well, though. You just kind of got to pay attention to what you're doing. But had a lot of it get laid over. You're going to see some little roughness in that one. I was going with the way it laid over. The one next to it, it'll be as clean as a whistle, and that's what happens when you get into this real tall stuff. I mean, see, that's just completely laid down. This hay is 8 to 10 foot tall. They planted 45 pounds of it to the acre. And to be quite honest with you, with the way this stuff is feeding, it's going to be anywhere between 6 to 7 ton to the acre hay. It's just thick. I mean, it is just terribly thick. We're running as wide as we can go on our windrows, and it's getting pretty massive. This spot, a lot of this actually has kind of stood back up, but that's also one reason why we're having trouble getting a good clean cut, because where it did stand back up, the plant curled really bad, and then it stood back up, so we lost that curled spot against the ground. And we've seen this quite a bit before with like reel machines, a regular reel header, and it really doesn't matter what you're cutting it with, you're still gonna have some of that issue. A lot of times when this stuff gets this bad, it can be kind of a pain with a reel header, because it'll ball up your reel sometimes. It's so laid over, and it makes it kind of hard cutting it. With this disc mower, it's not as bad, but then you kind of run into the issues of having a disc mower in a tall, super tall crop like this, where it's they're designed for that feed to get laid over and then sucked in. Well, with the feeds coming in like this from the front, it can be a little painful sometimes, but nothing bad. Nothing if you're paying attention. You slow down, handle it. But yeah, see, it's all laid over against the ground. It's going to be kind of a nightmare dealing with this stuff. But we're not. I'm going pretty slow. I'm running 6 miles an hour. I could be going faster, but we're trying to get as much of it as we can. As bad as this crop laid over, see, there's a spot we were going a little too fast, and we're just trying to get everything we can off of here. We'll probably go through and no-till wheat into this. This is not my hay. This is a custom job, and so really kind of do everything we can for the customer, make them very satisfied. But when your hay lays down flat, then there's only so much a person can do. The terrible thing is, there's some spots where we're leaving 3 inches of stock, and then where we are now, where this is super laid over real bad, we could be leaving a foot of stock or 2 foot of stock, and there's just nothing you can do about that. And as long as you're doing what you can, then you're not going to get everything, and it makes it kind of hard. The other thing about this is that, you know, we've thought about just cutting it against it, you know, running against it, but we're on we would have to cut one way and then drive a half mile to the other end and then come back. And so you're going to be putting in, you know, you'd be putting in a half mile or 3/4 of a mile just to get back around to the one side. And so it makes it where you can't really do that. And either way, the way it's laid down, you're gonna have to be cutting it at least one way that you don't want to. I have lowered my, I have tilted my header down quite a bit more than I normally would. Try to get those knives cutting in there. You know, this isn't like alfalfa or wheat or something that gets laid down that, you know, you can get those crop lifter knives or something like that. This stuff is such a tangled mess that it's just not, it's not going to lift. Now here's where we're going to run into some problems that you really got to pay attention to. All this feed is laying towards us, and so what we're having to do is we're having to take this feed in, roll it back over, and then into the conditioners. And if you're not careful, you can plug up your swather really bad. And it's not that the machine can't handle it. Is, you know, this is where there's no real sucking it back to an auger, that when that stuff rolls back up like this, it can create a dead spot in your machine somewhere. And so you have to go kind of slow to make sure that your conditioners are actually grabbing the crop and feeding them through. Whereas, you know, if you had an auger back there, I don't think an auger would be a nightmare in this stuff in a header like this. But, you know, it's always something. We've cut train loads of hay like this with an old sickle machine, and I'm honestly have the same problems with that sickle machine as I'm having right now. That once it gets all tangled up and laid down like this, you just kind of got to be paying attention to what you're doing, or you're gonna ball up the machine. And you can plug one of these disc binds, I promise you. I have done it. But, you know, just a testament to how well this machine really runs is, you know, we're cutting just terrible crap like this, and our machine doesn't get hot. You know, it handles it. Sometimes you can overwork your machine in things like this, and because it takes so much hydraulic power to get through this kind of crap, that you can actually start overworking your engine. And that's something you have to really pay attention to. And especially in this haygrazer like this, you get a lot of the pollen. If you don't have a good air system, it will plug your radiators up just slicker and snot. I mean, and then you're not only fighting terrible hay conditions, then you're fighting you know, cooling conditions. And not to just brag on this machine, but with the way they have this thing set up with those radiators at the very back of the machine, where it will reverse that fan and push air back through them, I don't have any cooling issues with this machine and hay like this at all. If I get in super terrible dry crops where we're kicking up as much dust as we are anything, we have to be, you know, we got to stop during the day and blow it out maybe once, and then we'll be fine for the rest of the day. But that's just part of knowing what you're cutting in. But you can see how all this stuff is just laid straight into us, and we're having to roll this crap back up, and you'll get dead spots over here where, you know, and you'll get them over here too, but where you're really sitting still in the feed, you'll get a dead spot in there, and you really have to pay attention and make sure it's going to grab that and suck it through the machine, because if you don't, you will end up with a giant wad of hay in there that just isn't feeding, and it can plug your machine up if you're not careful, or it'll wrap your conditioners, and that's never fun. But we do have our conditioners set down pretty tight today. You know, a lot of these stalks are as big as my thumb, and we want them to be as broke up as we possibly can, just for the dry down. This should take us a week, but since that hurricane's gonna hit, you know, it's actually hitting Texas today or tomorrow. It's supposed to hit tomorrow. It may blow a bunch of moisture up in here on us and this stuff. Who knows what's gonna happen with this, but we've got to get it cut. They got to get wheat put in this, and so today's the day. And I'm actually running my conditioners in the yellow range. I've got them that tight just because we want this stuff to get dried down. And if I end up bailing this for the guy, then I'll come over here in like a day or two and I'll roll all these windrows, because if you don't, this stuff is so thick that if you don't roll these windrows, you can wait a week for them to dry down, but if you have any moisture at all, you can get some wet spots on the bottom and they'll start to rot. So if we can get the top dried out, we'll roll it over real quick and keep that from happening. But if I'm not the one hired to do that, well, then it's not really my problem, and all I have to worry about is the fact that I condition it the best possible way that anybody could have. Keep them happy. So this is where it's at. Now I'm running back at 6 miles an hour again. You know, I'm not really even loaded up. I've still got high RPMs on my cutter bar, so I'm just trying to take it slow and get everything that I can. So far my machine hasn't caught on fire. That's always a plus. But and all kidding aside, I kind of make that joke because you know, a lot of my guys, you guys have seen my reviews on the machine, and you all have seen One Lonely Farmer's reviews on the machine, and me and him have completely different opinions. I own the machine, I run the machine, I rely on the machine. I would like to think that I have one of the best machines out there, and I really believe that I do. I also have a fantastic service department behind me and a fantastic dealer behind me. And so if there ever is an issue with my machine, I get it resolved quickly. And I have never had an issue with this machine so far that I've had to call a service department on mechanically. I have had an issue with my GPS subscription. They had me on the mid, you know, Continental. They had it coming out of, you know, set for like Texas. And so when I actually got on this particular field here, then I should have been on the Western US subscription, and it was a bit of an issue. But, you know, that's just kind of how life is sometimes, you know. But we got that resolved. It works really well, works really good. I love the GPS, especially for hay grazer. My goodness, this if you've ever cut hay like this, you can know that side starts laying down sometimes and you don't really know where you are, and you can either start missing it or you're just way overlapping. And this just does fantastic. Look at how gnarly this stuff is. We'll have to get out and get in some of it. But back to the disagreement. I talked to the guy a little bit. I know some of you guys have asked me, because I left a comment on his deal, and I talked to him a little bit. Never heard back from him, so you know, that's kind of whatever. Not a big deal to me. I don't know whether he was calling to change my mind about this machine, but it's not going to happen. I'm not worried about this machine. I would definitely buy another one in a heartbeat. I just wouldn't want to pay for another one. And for where I live, Atco or Livingston Machinery has hands down the best service there is for hay equipment. Nobody touches them, nobody compares to them. I mean, it is night and day. And I don't have any trouble with their hay equipment. I really don't. I had John Deere balers, I've got John Deere tractors. If I have a trouble with my tractor, my John Deere dealer is awesome with tractors, but they are not that good with hay equipment. Or they weren't when I had ground balers through them. They just were not. And my Atco dealer and John Deere dealer and Case dealer and New Holland dealer are all in the same town. And there's a reason why I have Atco hay equipment, because they are the best. And I think that their hay equipment is the best, especially when they have the service department to follow up with them. If you got a machine and you're spending 180 grand a pop for a machine, you know, whether it be a round baler or, you know, or a square baler and a swather, then you better have a good service department. I don't care what color it is, you've got to have somebody to stand behind you. You've got to have a good partner in that business. So these guys are the best partner, and I love this machine. I really do. I thoroughly enjoy cutting with it, and I'm not worried about it at all. But that's, you know, that's my opinion. That's my opinion on it. That's my take on it. And, you know, what can I say? Other people own different equipment. They want to think their equipment's the best. But, you know, I mean, for the payments I'm making on this thing, I want to think that I got a good machine too. But thinking it and knowing it are two different things. And honestly, the results I've had with this machine, I think they kind of point towards it's a damn good machine to own. And there's so many of them out here in the West. You know, people buy them for a reason. They work. And you can cut this terrible crap. This is just nasty old hay. You got a pretty decent machine. But I didn't mean to make this video this terribly long, but this is what we're doing today. Really don't have a terrible lot of hay work this fall. Really, I was supposed to have a lot more, and I kind of gotten sidetracked with other stuff. So who knows? Who knows what we'll actually end up with? This may just be the start. This may be all of it. That's okay. We've made our payments on our equipment, and we have lots of other jobs to do on the ranch, and that's kind of the reason why I'm in this hay business, is to pay for my equipment. And that's all we can do. Try to make a little money and get our equipment paid for, have nice equipment to use, and go from there. So thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions on this machine that you kind of want to see a little more about, where it's not just a he said horseshit, you actually want to know something about the machine, be more than happy to make a video on it for you, and we'll kind of go from there. Give you guys a quick view of this. Here's what this stuff's doing. We're just balling it up. It's going to be hard to dry, but that's just how thick it is. This isn't the thickest spot, but I wanted to show you this, where that stuff starts sticking out the side. It'll start rolling, and that's what makes GPS so nice. This is the issue that we're having when we're turning around and come back the other direction. It's laid all this stuff over. I mean, look how tall this is. 9 foot. I can't even reach the top of the seat head. And it has just laid all this hay down. It's just ridiculous. A 9-10 foot tall hay, and it makes this giant web. And the reason why we're having to go so slow is when we start cutting this, some of these will stand back up, and we're trying to get everything that we can. And when we're cutting like this, you have the feeding problem from coming this direction. It's ridiculous, but that's part of it. Oh, and here's our Here's our stalks. Size of my thumb. See? Yeah, it's all got laid over by golf ball sized hail, and it is just nasty. I had to stop there. You can see where it blew. It's just gnarly. Gnarly. Gnarly stuff. See, this is what happens. It's so tall. I was gonna put pipes on the side of my conditioner or my header. You'll see that here where guys do a lot of hay grazer. We'll put pipes on the side, and it'll kind of roll this stuff back in to it, but to keep it from doing that. But I'll just pick it up going the next way. It's to my knee. A lot of the windrows, they're as wide as they can go. Just good amounts of feed. We can't complain.